talk generally about politics first of all. Quite a night for American politics last night in St. Paul.
To say the least. The theater was about as good as it gets. Mm-hmm. Impressive speech. On the speech, let me say one thing, trying to connect it to policy besides the politics. It was interesting. The one area of policy she ventured into, Sarah Palin, was energy policy.
Yes.
You can quibble over the details about drilling or the rest. It's interesting, though, that America's changed. People are finally beginning to say we've got to do something about our energy dependency, about the use, about the imports above all, and that energy policy is increasingly foreign and defense policy. It's really interesting. This would not have happened 6 months ago or a year ago. You're hearing it from both sides. I actually think this has the potential to be an important change in American politics.
And, Democrats have been talking about actually getting America off of a dependence on foreign oil for some time, but politics is strange.
Yeah.
Now it's the Republicans are saying, let's do everything. Let's not only look at raising CAFE standards and research and development, but also let's drill. Let's do nuclear. And so the Democrats are now put into a defensive position after being champions of this cause for so long.
Right. A surprising emphasis on drilling, obviously. The drill, baby, drill thing's got a political edge to it. But you're right. The fact when one went through the litany, the only thing actually that was missing was doing something about conservation and efficiency.
Right.
That's not politically an easy sell, but that's something we should do. It's actually the low-hanging fruit on energy. But the fact that last night Republicans talked about nuclear, about all the alternatives, wind, solar, and the rest, plug-in hybrids, what have you. Drilling is going to be part of the political package. What's so interesting to me is American politics, 35 years after the first oil crises of the 1973 war, Americans are finally getting it that so long as we are drinking this much oil and importing it, sending billions of dollars to bad regimes, it is bad for the United States. I am excited.
Yeah.
It's possible that over the next 4 years, regardless of who wins, we will finally see some movement on this issue, and that is good for the United States.
That is very exciting, and you're right, though, they didn't talk about my whole deal about raising CAFE standards up to 40 miles per gallon. I don't think the balloons would fall down for that one. Let me ask you, Lawrence, to get your first impression of a night that we thought was just
for the movies.
Just as storybook as Barack Obama's introduction in Iowa.
It was a great night for this convention, and this convention needed a great night. Had a very rocky start. She had a rocky introduction. I mean, actually, her first day was great. I mean, people may forget. It seems like a long time ago, but that first speech she gave when her candidacy was announced was a great speech. So this built on that. There wasn't really that much surprise in her ability to perform one of these things. So she definitely showed that she could hold the stage in a giant convention hall. That now becomes a useless talent. She's not going to get to do that again for another 4 years. She now has to hold the stage in a debate with Joe Biden. Joe Biden's going to be formidable. She's going to have to hold the stage in a press conference. At some point, she's going to have to take a question from a reporter. She hasn't done that yet. They've kept her protected from that. They're tutoring her on how to handle that. She has some time, and I think the press is going to give her some time before that becomes a demand, that she face some real questions.
Pat, go ahead.
I think Lawrence is exactly right. But look, as governor of Alaska, and not necessarily mayor of Wasilla, she's had to deal with the press. I think she's fine dealing with the press in what she knows. And clearly she knows energy.
Right.
But you're right. I mean, when they start asking about, do you think it was a smart thing to send American troops into Pakistan?
There you go.
And then you're in different terrain. Yeah.
Right. And, she doesn't need that much. I mean, she needs a solid index card worth of material on each one of these things.
Well, I think,
and she needs to find various ways of phrasing it. But
I think some people would argue she might need more. The McCain campaign is saying, Richard, that she's going to be educated along the way on foreign policy. Mm-hmm. You have been immersed in foreign policy for decades. Is this possible, given the crises and the threats that we face in this country right here, right now?
Look, anybody can cram for an exam.
Yeah.
Obviously, she's got a steep learning curve, and she has to be careful she doesn't get caught out.
But is it possible?
It's possible to get the index card of material. What you can't get is a substitute for having worked these issues for 20, 30 years.
Well, and Richard, George Bush is a good example. He was asked who the leader of Pakistan was in 2000 and couldn't come up with the name Musharraf.
Right, well, is he a good example, Joe? let's
well,
no. What I'm saying is,
he wasn't going to bring enough.
Well, yeah. Listen to what I said. What I said was that you can't cram for these things. That if George Bush had been immersed in this for 20 years, then perhaps we would have built better alliances over the past 5-6 years.
There's two different things. One is, can she learn enough for the next 60 days of campaigning?
That's not what I'm talking about.
If you're asking, can she learn enough conceivably for the next 4 years of governance? Much more difficult standard, and that's the real one. She will not clearly be in a position to be a source of advice and counsel to the president.
How ends up becoming president?
Hold on now. Look, Bill Clinton didn't have any experience at all when he went in there. As we said, he had one breakfast at the International House of Pancakes when he was elected.
Oh, dear.
By the end of 8 years, he knew neighborhoods in Jerusalem where they ought to go. But you put her at the National Security Council, you give her those briefings day in and day out, and she's got a kid in Iraq, and I'll tell you, she will know about Iraq in 6 months to a year.
But Pat, you cannot compare.
Maybe not like you do, and others do, but enough to make the decision.
Excuse me. I don't want to sound like an elitist here because, of course, I get paid lots of money for bashing elitists. You cannot compare a hockey mom and a governor and a mayor of Wasilla with an Oxford Rhodes Scholar that studied in England, that spent his life studying these foreign policy issues.
I can't win this conversation.
Studying in Arkansas.
No, and he was a law professor in Arkansas. You and I both know that Bill Clinton was immersed in foreign policy, even when he was governor of Arkansas.
The most important thing is that Bill Clinton got elected when we didn't think foreign policy mattered anymore. There was no war in Iraq. Let's go back to the first year of Vice President Cheney's duty, okay? September 11th. On September 11th, the Vice President of the United States was on the phone with the President of the United States requesting permission to order the shoot-down of possible civilian airliners. Civilian airliners in the United States. That's the new job of Vice President in this country. And you look at these two candidates and you say, if that were to ever happen again, which one of them do I want on the phone with?
And let's take the news today, Richard Haas, and say 6 months from now, this could happen. Our troops go into Pakistan. An extreme Pakistan regime decides, and I don't think there's going to be one, but a Pakistan regime decides they're going to shoot back. They're going to kill U.S. troops. It escalates. Pretty soon, a president and a vice president have to make a decision on whether we're going to go to a limited war in the Peshawar region with Pakistan. Is Sarah Palin ready to be sitting around the table, or will she be the last person that John McCain goes to?
I'd almost say, is anyone ready for that last scenario? We're probably facing a situation where you've got a government in Pakistan with their 6 nuclear weapons, home to Al-Qaeda and who knows what else, unable or unwilling or both to deal with the internal security problems there. The next president's going to have to make the decision. My hunch is we're going to have to figure out a way to go in and out of Pakistan to try to do discrete missions. Every time we do it, though, we are going to eat up whatever little goodwill we have there. This is a mounting problem that is clearly going to confront, whether it's McCain and Palin or Obama and Biden. This is a growing problem.
I think this is their weak spot. I'm sorry, with Sarah Palin.
Well,
she had a great speech
I was just going to say, though, this is also Barack Obama's weak spot.
Yeah, but he picked Biden.
Barack Obama, though, here we have, and I'm curious, what do you think about having a president that served in the Senate for maybe 150 days of actual work days, and having a vice presidential nominee on the Republican side with very little experience? If you had your choice, would you not want candidates more like Joe Biden, more like John McCain, in both slots on those tickets?
This is clearly a moment for experience, given the challenges facing the United States, given our own limitations and what we do. I keep coming back to this theme. In American history, more than 200 years of our history, we've had few moments of such difficulty facing this country. We shouldn't kid ourselves. We should not underestimate. The main thing is we don't have time for a learning curve. It's quite possible. History's not going to say time out for the next president. Very quickly on, you could have something with Iran, with its nuclear program, with Pakistan and Afghanistan. Russia could decide that Ukraine is next. There could be a dollar crisis. Who knows? They will not
and again, what happens when Russia goes into Kiev?
Exactly.
And John McCain, for some reason, is indisposed. And Sarah Palin has to make a decision on whether whether attack on Kiev is an attack on NATO.
It's a big decision. What will also matter is who's going to fill out the cabinet, who's at state, who's at defense.
Right.
And one last thing, just in the defense of those who are not experienced, what we've learned the hard way is experience is no guarantee of judgment.
Exactly.
Just because people have been through things doesn't mean they've learned from
both Biden and McCain voted to take us into this war in Iraq. I'm sure the Council on Foreign Relations did, and that's my judgment, the biggest mistake in American foreign policy in my lifetime.
And then, of course,